Ha guys, let's get more news about Warriors, but first don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Warriors trade. Steve Kerr just ruined any shot the Warriors had of keeping Jonathan Kuminga. After Steve Kerr's most recent comments, there's a strong chance that Jonathan Kuminga has played his final game with the Golden State Warriors. If there was any chance that Jonathan Kuminga could resign with the Golden State Warriors this summer, that ship has probably sailed by now. After Warriors head coach Steve Kerr's most recent comments, it's pretty safe to say that any shot that Kuminga had of returning to Golden State is pretty much ruined. In a recent interview when asked about Kuminga, Kerr basically said that he can't see a scenario, at least at the moment, in which he can play the young forward big minutes while also trying to win. Because of the way the roster is constructed, Kerr doesn't believe Kuminga can fit while playing big minutes. In fairness to Kerr, he may not be wrong. However, at the same time, it's absolutely wild to hear a coach say that about a player who is still technically on the roster. In a little more than a month, that may no longer be the case. But these comments from Kerr do tell the story of where the two sides stand with each other. Jonathan Kuminga desperately needs a fresh start. When James Wiseman and Kuminga were drafted during the 2020 and 2021 drafts respectively, there was a hope that they would be key anchors toward the Warriors' next foundational build. However, after a year and a half with the team, it became clear that Wiseman was a bust or that he was never going to work in Golden State. Soon after, the same fate could be awaiting Kuminga. As he prepares to hit restricted free agency, there isn't a huge expectation that he's going to be resigned by their Warriors, especially considering that he fell out of the rotation by the end of the regular season and the fact that the only reason why he climbled back into the rotation in the playoffs is because of injuries. Looking back, their Warriors probably should have traded Kuminga after the acquisition of Jimmy Butler, hoping that they could find a role for Kuminga with Butler. Their Warriors took the gamble of keeping him on the roster. At this point, it's pretty obvious that it didn't work out. What has to be most frustrating for Kerr and the Warriors is the fact that Kuminga is not a bad player. This is not the same situation with Wiseman. Kuminga is still a talented young player, but is clearly not a great fit with the Warriors. It was an odd fit from the moment he was drafted, and not much has changed since. In fact, the argument can be made that it's been even more difficult to find a role for him after the addition of Jimmy. Unless something drastically changes between now and free agency, Kuminga is probably not going to be back with the Warriors next season. And Kerr's most recent comments, fair or foul, pretty much confirm that. Now, let's go to another video. Don't forget to leave a like. He fits their style. He can shoot the basketball. He's going to be able to defend. He's tough. Listen, he's smart, very cerebral basketball player. He checked all of the boxes for the style of play that the Golden State Warriors like to play. Now, what's that going to cost them in return? We'll see. We'll let them deal with that. But from a basketball standpoint, I really like this fit. I love it basketball-wise. I just feel like a signing trade is going to have to be for Kuminga. And I don't know if Kuminga fits with Tatum and Brown. Well, I mean, it's a spot open for some star power now. Yeah, that's true. That's a spot open for that actually makes some sense now, don't you think? It's a spot for him, Kuminga, to grow in Boston. And it's all happening. And that makes Jaylen Brown the obvious number one option. Now, this gives Kuminga an opportunity to go under another great guy's wing to kind of show him the ropes like, hey, this is how we do it. And he's going to be the second option on that basketball team. And he's going to have an opportunity to make a really big impact on them. I like that. I know it's just talk right now, but if this comes into fruition, I like it for both sides. And Derek White's such a plug-and-play guy. He can play on any system, any team, and fit in. He can play on the Olympic team and play well, huh? Did you watch that? Remember when Team USA? Is he coming back for the last segment? I'm fired. Did they beat him the year before? Was he the assistant? They beat him in 789. There you go. See, let me your memory is how could I not know that? Molly, 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 hold on. Hold on, doggy. Since you want to act like you're the only one that knows, let me ask you this question, doggy. Who did they beat? Who did they lose to and then they beat? Who? Seattle. Seattle beat them. Okay. They lost the Bullets in 7 games. Dennis Johnson was 1 for 15 in Game 7 at the Pacific Coliseum. And the next year they beat him in 5 games. I'll throw something else at you. Who's their starting center? They were 5. Who was their starting center? Who, the Sonics or the B? Are you kidding me? I suggest you have to deal with, and I got to deal with these guys. So we all got something to deal with. I was testing him, coach. I was testing him, coach. I saw that. He got it right. It was Jack. I was waiting to Jack sick. Yeah? All right. I got you. Okay. Are you focused now or are you still on the hot seat? You're ready. Let JB talk. I want to hear what he has to say. He's the coach of the year here. Go ahead. Okay. Obviously, but you got to get us started on okay. On our super teams or parity better for the NBA? And JB can counterpunch. I think it's parity myself. I think you're always in all leagues. You're as good as your weakest link. I mean, the NFL doesn't really have any super teams. I mean, they got the great quarterbacks, but Green Bay can compete. These smaller market teams have a chance. The baseball's got that problem. We all know that. It's the Dodgers and it's the Yankees and teams like the Pirates, and you know those kind of teams can't, which is a problem. And I think the NBA, it's not about finances with the NBA, it's about where the great player wants to play. But I think the fact that we have OKC in here, we have Indiana in here, we have a big market team in the Knicks, and then of course Minneapolis is not really a small market, but it's not a great basketball traditional place necessarily. I think it's much better for the league, JB. I much prefer a lot of good teams than one great team and nobody house. I prefer the good team of them. I'm shocked. I've listened to you a lot on this show, but I agree with you. Did you really? Free when you place your first $5 entry. You don't need to win to receive the $50. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks run your game. All that information will be clickable down in the comment section and description of today's video. So, kind of touching on a point we made earlier in the show, Steve Kerr wants Jonathan Kuminga to play complementary basketball to Steph, to Jimmy, to Draymond. To be honest with you, with the frame, with the athleticism, and just overall with the profile that he provides as a player, I do think that he could be a positive impact type of guy if he played that role. But again, it is very murky on whether or not he'd be willing to do something like that at this point. Steve Kerr with a little bit more exposition and detail on this. He says, I've always felt the type of player that JK needs to be. I've mentioned this in the past, Sean Marion is a guy that jumps out. And I've talked about this in JK's rookie year, with his athleticism, running the floor, putting pressure on the rim, offensive rebounds, getting into the dunker spot, the drop-off pass from drivers, going up and dunking and guarding everybody on the other end. To me, that's what he's really built for. And we really push for that and push him in that direction. And I think sometimes with young players, there's a process. Aaron Gordon is a good example. He spent years in Orlando where he really wanted to be the scorer and the lead guy, and he had some success like JK has, but maybe didn't really find his role and find himself until later when he gets traded to the Denver Nuggets. And now you see when after, Gordon really refines all these different areas of his game being a complementary player. You look at this past postseason, Aaron Gordon was playing a lot more on the ball and he was creating his more offense, and Denver was more willing to let him kind of let loose and be free after polishing the other areas of his game that needed to be polished. He's an excellent rebounder. He's an excellent on-ball defender. Like he's a big body that defenses are, that defense are kind of built upon like you can hang your hat on Aaron Gordon. Be the only guy in the paint when there's penetration and he can meet somebody at the rim and deter the shot whether it's a block or just a miss. It doesn't seem like Kuminga is interested in being that type of player at this point. Like every time I see this guy out on the court, it's playing in the perimeter. Like he's either just standing around doing nothing or he's looking for the ball out on the right or left wing, and there's not much movement going around with Jonathan Kuminga. Like there's flashes of these kinds of things. Yeah? A back cut here, a back cut there. A dump off in the dunker spot in certain situations. Maybe a short screen and roll where he can roll to the cup and find himself wide open there when the double comes to the ball handler. But it doesn't seem like he's willing to be a very complimentary player as much as Steve Kerr needs him to be in order to find value in playing him and winning basketball games. His version of basketball just doesn't seem all that effective at this point. Shout out to my guy the Ball Sage on Twitter who posts this photo pretty often, man. And as an efficient basketball player, a shot maker, Jonathan Kuminga is no joke one of the worst in the NBA. His free throw percentage is terrible. So like if we're talking about the things that he does well on the basketball court, it's getting rim pressure and getting to the basket, drawing contact. Except when he does draw the contact and gets to the line, he's complete dog. He's 66% from the free throw line, which is the 27th percentile in the entire NBA. He's not Steven Adams. He's not Mitchell Robinson. He's a 67 basketball player. Hit a damn free throw. What about his threes? Oh yeah, 38th percentile in the league. He shoots 30%, and guess what? There are like 500 other players in the league that aren't the size profile of Jonathan Kuminga, and he needs to be able to shoot threes if he's going to be a 67 swing man. What about mid-range? Oh yeah, he's in the 4th percentile in the entire NBA. You know how atrocious that is? That is so bad it's laughable. What almost as laughable is his overall shot making at 17 as 17th percentile, 11th percentile on three-pointers. Like it's honestly atrocious. And look, man. Maybe I'm a hater, whatever. But this is what I have to say about it all. Everything that you've seen and heard in this video, it comes and boils down to this. I don't think that you can maximize Jonathan Kuminga's skill set on the Golden State Warriors on a team that is built and centered around Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green. You have those are three guys who carry a lot of usage. Like Steph being the least of those guys most of the time because he is always running off of off-ball screens, and Draymond and Jimmy will have the ball in their hands. This is no room for Kuminga to have a huge share of the basketball and that huge share of the offense when he's not really conducive and doesn't contribute to long stretches of consistent scoring for Golden State. They get their best shots when it's a motion flow offense and Steph is coming and running off screens, and as a result defenses are gravitating towards him and other players will be found open in the corners or at the basket like other ways like that. It's not isolation basketball. It's not working in the mid-range for Jonathan Kuminga's elbow jumpers. That is not how Golden State is going to win basketball games. It's unfortunate for a player who has a lot of young promise and so much untapped potential, but at the end of the day, it's just not going to work in Golden State in my opinion. However, like there are opportunities for Golden State to kind of get in some value back for Jonathan K. Like at the end of the day, it does not look like he's going to be a Warrior next season. It would be smart for his agent, his whole team and himself to go to try to find another destination elsewhere where he could put up a bunch of empty stats and lose a lot of basketball games. So, with that being said, we're going to talk about Jonathan Kuminga sign and trade ideas, and we went through a couple from Bleacher Report a couple days ago. But today I went to the people over at Fanso and for the first one that we're discussing because I wanted to get the pulse of real ball fans out there. That's why we're going to fans about and so we can get Cam Johnson over to the Golden State Warriors. And honestly, I think this package is semi-realistic. You send Kuminga over there and he signs, I believe, a $22 million a year deal with the Nets. He also sent away Santos with a 2027 first-round pick and a 2029 first-round pick swap. So, couple of first-round draft assets, but I believe bringing Cam Johnson to Golden State. Listen, if you guys been watching this channel for a couple months now at this point, like before the trade deadline, I was all in on bringing Cam to the Bay Area because he's an excellent movement shooter. He is a versatile defender who can defend a couple different spots. Not the best on that end, but absolutely a serviceable and willing team defender. Also can get to the rim. Like solid on-ball skills because of the role that he was asked to play in Brooklyn. So, I think he could be fantastic. A 40% three-point shooter perennially. He fits the timeline. He's 29. He's coming off a 19-point-per-game season. Cam Johnson should be the Golden State Warriors' #1 target realistically this offseason because we know they're not getting Derek White. What about trade idea 2 that I found that is honestly super enticing to me as well? And I don't think it's out of the question. I do think that the Warriors get the best player in this deal. And that's a recurring theme of these trade ideas. They get Herb Jones to the Bay Area and I mean another phenomenal fit. You send away Kuminga, Moses Moody, Santos and a 2028 top 10 protected first. So that would be theoretically the first year without Staff, without Jimmy, without Raymond, without Kerr, all that stuff. You get Herb Jones over to the Bay Area. And if you're trying to win a championship over these next 2 years, look no further than if you're looking for winning basketball players than Herb Jones. 66 but plays a heck of a lot bigger. He can hit the corner 3 like a top 10 3 and D role playing guy in this league. Herb Jones undisputed and he provides so much more positively on the basketball court than Jonathan Kuminga does. It's not close. What about trade idea number 3 that maybe brings at least maybe on paper or public perception the best player overall that we're looking at here? And keep in mind because MPJ Michael Porter Jr. would be heading to Golden State in this deal. He makes like $37 million. It's a lot of money. And Jonathan Kuminga, he would need to sign a pretty hefty salary figure to make this money work. So, just keep that in mind. Like, Kuminga would have to sign a certain number to get all these players that we're talking about in these deals. But, I looked at on fans, it all kind of ironed out. Nothing was too unrealistic. And this one brings Michael Porter Jr. and former Warrior Dario Saric to Golden State. And honestly, this deal that you don't have to give up any picks for. Like this is more for Denver's kind of salary cap relief. They create $10 million in cap here. And I think MPJ as far as being a movement shooter and somebody who's much more akin to this Golden State offense fits incredibly better than Jonathan Kuminga does. I like this deal a decent bit, but you also have to give away Buddy Hield, who I liked a good, chunk of his time here in Golden State. especially in the playoffs, and especially when he wasn't asked to be like the #1 scoring option on the team. So, I like MPJ, but I'm not so sure that this is the deal that I would go with out of the three. You guys pick one for me now. What's the Johnny Cam assignment trade that you like the best? If it's this one right here, give me a 1 in the chat that brings Cam Johnson to the Warriors. What about trade 2 that brings Herb Jones and an underrated piece in the deal? Kelly Olin, who fits this offense like a glove in its type 2 down in the comments section. And if it's Michael Porter Jr. you want to swing for the fences, give me a 3 down in the comments section. I want to hear from Dub Nation on what the best offer here is for JK. And that will do it for today's edition of Golden State Warriors Today. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel, youtube.com/warriorstv, because if anything comes out about Jonathan Kuminga's future plans here in this off-season, we will bring you this information. So, lock us in as a #1 spot for Warriors content on YouTube. And as always, let's go Dubs. Folks, I have some major news around Moses Moody and Draymond Green. One of them just got surgery. The other one just won an award. Who did what? Moody thumb surgery. You may have seen them wearing a cast throughout the end of the season. Could make sense why he did not perform in the playoffs. And we'll break down what this means for him this off-season and next season. Draymond Green, our heartbeat of the team per Steve Kerr. What did he do? He won Defensive Team, first All-NBA Defensive Team, the not one Defensive Player of the Year. So, we're going to break down how many NBA defensive teams has he been on. Steph Curry gave him a shout-out and more. Randy Silver Wars Digest. Folks, we're under 100 away, 100 subscribers away from 12,000. If you're new here, please subscribe. We give you Warriors news multiple times a day. Trade rumors, drafts, news like this, everything in between. You don't want to miss it. If you've been here a long time, thank you, thank you, thank you. And one of the news I talked about yesterday was Michael Porter Jr. coming to the Warriors. I see y'all's comments. I got tripped a new one for it. I may have overstated how good of a defensive player he is. I agree with that. But with his length, he can be. And I did not say that Warriors should go get him. I'm just showing you what's out there and what is being talked about. And for $38 million, their Warriors don't have the salary to make that happen. So, I completely agree. But, I see the comments, folks. I see. And usually people are on my side. That one I got tripped. And you know what? That is what you do when you live on the internet. You win some, you lose some. But, I do agree that he'd be a good fit in the sense that he can shoot, but he is not durable and he doesn't play the best defense. But for what we need on the wing, that type of player, that is the type of ideal person we want. Someone who's not 6'11", who's a bit shorter, is Moses Moody. And he just got surgery on his UCL and his right thumb. So, what does this mean, folks? He was hurt for the back half of the season, especially that end of the season playoff run. The team announced this yesterday, Thursday. He went under surgery in LA. Is expected to make a full recovery in time for training camp. So, this should not bother him for next season. However, this means he will be limited in the off-season. Can't potentially dribble with his right hand, can't potentially shoot with his right hand. I would assume he can still run and condition and be in shape and everything like that, jumping, leg workouts, but what do basketball players do? What do they need to do? Shoot, shoot, shoot. So, it's going to hinder him in the off-season, meaning in training camp, early part of the season. It'll be interesting to see what his shooting is like. The 22-year-old is coming off his best season with the Warriors, averaging 9.8 points, 43% shooting, almost 3 rebounds, and a little bit over 1 assist in 22 minutes played. And remember, at the beginning of last year, he signed a 3-year extension. Look at line number 10. Moody is now going to make 12 million, 13 million, 13 million the next 3 years. Kuminga right above him, probably extend him $7 million, but we know that he's looking for more. So the question is, folks, is Moody worth $13 million? If you look back at what I just said, what were we at? As a semi-starter, bench player in between, this is very solid production. Probably want to get more than 7 points. Went closer to 10 to 12, maybe even higher, but we know he was in and out of the lineup and again he was hurt a little bit. That 13 million though is something that could potentially be used in a trade to try to get a better shooter, maybe more length. Something to be aware of, but I do think they're going to keep Moody because he is a good all-around player offensively and defensively. Now somebody who we know is very good defensively can be a limitation offense now and then is Draymond Green, but he earned himself an all-defensive team along with Evan Mobley, Dyson Daniels, Lou Dort, Taman Thompson. Second team is Tommy Kamara, Rudy Gobert, Jaren Jackson Jr., Jalen Williams, Ika Zubac. Congratulations to Draymond Green. We know he wanted Defensive Player of the Year, but he did not get it. He got only defensive team. And the boy Steph Curry shouting him out. Been doing it your whole career. Back on the first team after a decade is legendary. 5-time a club. Congrats. And I would like to make that point. After a decade, to get back on the first team is impressive. We see athletes moving into their 30s when they should be retiring, continuing to peak. Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, Steph Curry, and yes, they're not at the peak of their powers, but they're still playing high-level ball. Steph Curry, a top 10 NBA finalist for MVP. Draymond Green in his mid-30s. Getting back to the first team all-defensive team. It's the 9th time he's been all-defensive team member in his 13-year career. Pretty good percentage, 9 out of 13. 5th time he was first team, 5 first team, 4 first team, or excuse me, 5 first team, 4 second team, 18, 19, 22, 23, and now he's back on the first team stance again. He was a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year, finishing 3rd for the award. Defensive Player of the Nod was 26, 2017, so almost a decade ago. He also won, you may have not known, the 2024-2025 NBA Hustle Award, which quote honors players who make the effort plays that don't appear in the traditional box score and impact winning on a nightly basis. That is Draymond Green getting on the floor, yelling, being a team leader, motivating, not the technical fouls, flagrant fouls, things like that, suspensions, but really doing the stuff that is his triple digits. People say triple digits, helps win games. He's the first person of the award to finish in the top 40 of all 9 hustle categories per NBA Hustle stats, which the league has been tracking since 2016 postseason. Charges drawn, deflections, screen assist, contested 2-point shots, contested 3-point shots, offensive loose balls, defensive and defensive loose balls recovered, 2 different stats. Offensive box outs, and defensive box outs. So, this is a big thing. Again, you're not getting a rebound, you're not making a shot, you're not getting a steal. It's all in being in the right place at the right time and making sure you're mentally checked in and doing the hustle plays. So, congrats to Draymond Green, the first player to have a top 40 finish in all 9 of those. Green on a per-minute basis ranks 2nd in contested 3-point shots, 6th in charges drawn, 10th in defensive box outs, 13th in contested 2-point shots, 15th in deflections. The 8-time All Defensive Team member also was more one than just two players with 40-plus appearances that average at least 1.5 steals and 1 block per game. So when you look at that, folks, that's pretty good. I know people are saying trade Draymond Green. We can get somebody better for $25 million to get that type of player on your team. It's pretty dang good, especially at his age, mid-30s, to still get that effort. That is worth $25 million. Now, I know there's more stuff that goes on behind the scenes, the antics, etc., etc. Offensively, sometimes he can be liability. He was a bit better this year than in previous years, but you can't beat that. You're not going to find another player who's impacting the game significantly like that on defense. Now, he's got to stay on the court, not get suspended. He did better about that this year. He's got to be able to not get silly technicals flagrants that then cost us momentum, cost us free points to other team. That is stuff he has to be aware of. But overall, folks, to me, that's worth $25 million. And have to say congratulations from Warriors Digest to Draymond on the award. And we wish Moody a speedy recovery from his UCL thumb surgery. So comment your thoughts on each of these and of course subscribe Wars Digest. We break down all the news for you daily. Warriors predicted to make major Kevin Durant decision. The Golden State Warriors had to deal with some rough luck in the NBA playoffs. While they won their first-round series against the Houston Rockets, Jimmy Butler suffered an injury to his tailbone after a hard fall. While he only missed one game with the injury, it might have lingered as he didn't look like his usual self down the stretch against the Minnesota Timberwolves. To Butler's credit, all eyes were on him to carry the load after Stephen Curry went down in Game 1 of the Western Conference semi-finals with a hamstring injury. Warriors predicted to make Kevin Durant decision despite being benched down the stretch of the regular season. Jonathan Kuminga delivered when called upon. In the final 3 games against Minnesota, Kuminga averaged 26.3 points per game. He displayed the ability to get to the rim whenever he wanted and even shot 42% from deep in the series. According to Bleacher Report, Zach Buckley, a reunion in the Bay Area could happen this summer. Durant spent 3 seasons with the Warriors from 2016 to 19, helping them to 2 NBA championships. He took home the Finals MVP award both years. Kuminga is set to become a restricted free agent. While the Warriors will have the opportunity to match any offer sheet, the sign and trade possibilities are intriguing. If such a deal presented itself, that would likely be the way the Warriors would pull it off. After such a calamitous season from the Suns, it's very likely they would explore a trade for Durant in hopes of acquiring young talent and future assets that they initially give up for Durant and Bradley Beal. If the Warriors could bring back Durant and put him alongside Curry and Butler, they would instantly become contenders. And you fan, what do you think about Kevin Durant's situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.